Hey everybody, want to tell you about an amazing event called FAB, Females and Business. It's a 2-day inspirational and education workshop created by women for women in the hospitality industry. It is taking place in Charleston, South Carolina from Sunday, June 9th to Tuesday, June 11th.
Yeah, this event is going to be really cool, and it's featuring a lot of people that are friends of the podcast, former guests on the show like Katie Button and Chidi Kumar, as well as other very impactful female business entrepreneurs in the food and beverage industry. Why attend? Well, it's about investing in oneself. Knowledge is power, understanding your worth. And here's the kicker. If you don't think you can afford the $600 fee that it takes to get in there, have your boss pay for it. Because that's the first step in understanding your worth and your business's worth.
Once again, this is FAB, Females and Business. Check their website out. thisisfab.com. You can also click the link in our show notes, or you can check out our Instagram for more information.
You're listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast, coming to you from the Kitchen Studios, located high atop the historic Raleigh building, located in the heart of downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B Podcast takes you behind the scenes of North Carolina's food and beverage industry. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at NCFBPod. And now, the sommeliers to the stars, the barbacks in your backyard. It is Max and Matt.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss, and we are focusing on cider today. We have a revisit from one of our nation's foremost cider experts, Mr. Mattie Beason. Welcome, Mattie.
Hey, hey, hey.
And he has brought back to the triangle the boys from Stem Cider, the founders, co-creators, Philip Cow and Eric Foster. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
All right.
So, Mattie Beason, you are not a stranger to the podcast. You were on episode 10.
10. What episode are we now? It's like
about 156.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Would have been
146 ago.
December of 2016, maybe January 2017.
January 2017. Yep.
That's awesome.
Not too bad. And since then, we've moved from my basement, my house, to now we're at the Kitchen Studios. Everyone knows that by now. We're downtown Raleigh, and we are talking with professionals from all over the state. We talk to food purveyors, beverage purveyors, anyone that's got a great story in the food and beverage industry. And Mattie B., you have a great story in this food and beverage industry, and it's all based on cider. Let's get a little reference point, because the last time you were on the podcast, we were talking about Black Twig. We were talking about Mattie Bees.
Yeah.
And you have taken. It's interesting. You have pivoted.
I have pivoted. It's true. I've taken a full out left turn.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be happier about it.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel blessed. I feel very lucky. The restaurant game is an amazing one. It's one full of turns and U-turns and craziness, and it's all a really, really fun industry until it's not. And I have two small kids, and I was in a place where I was spending a lot of time not with those guys, and spending a lot of time, at night, and I wanted to be doing less of that, and
you were also traveling a ton with the Choach.
Traveling a ton with the cider and sort of being the cider evangelist for the Southeast, if not, a larger region than that. And, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a whole lot. And the cider evangelism was the kind of thing where I wanted to do more of that. But it was taking a toll on my restaurants as well.
Yeah.
And so I saw an opportunity, and I got out. I'm truly blessed because I got out. I'm not in debt. and I wasn't forced to do it on someone else's deal.
And now you're gainfully employed.
And now I'm gainfully employed, and I have benefits for the first time in my life. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I have a savings account. They call these things 401ks. I don't know if you guys know about them, but
heard about them,
I just found out about this. It is amazing.
Can I borrow $50?
Yeah, totally, man. I got it in my savings account now. It's awesome. It's so cool.
Seriously, the world.
I'm serious.
Of,
I actually want $50.
they give you a
we'll
hat
work
that's
that
probably
out.
worth like $25.
That's true. Oh, what a great transition, Matt. I'm sporting a badass black on black Stem Ciders hat. So that's where these two guys come in, right?
Yeah, so I've known Phil and Eric for about 5 years. We met at their actually opening night of their cidery of Stem 5 years ago in Denver. My wife is from Denver, so I was there or am there at least probably once, twice a year. So I always look up cideries when I'm in a new town to see if anybody's doing anything cool, and I happened to find these guys literally on opening night. So I sent in an email the week that they were opening, and it was like, hey, I really love cider, and I'm going to come to your opening. And they were like, yeah, we got a lot of things going on right now. Like, who are you? Like, it was very funny.
Wait a second.
It was very funny.
Let's preface this. They didn't know. Okay, and I will say, Mattie was not just a restaurateur, first and foremost. Yeah, you were a cider evangelist. At the time we had you on last, you were one of 8 cider experts in the country. Is that still the case? Or
teaching the course. The cider certification.
The cider certification.
There are many, many, many experts now because we've trained a ton of people. So
good for you. Your tree grows.
We're growing. Yeah, we're growing.
He's
we're
like
growing
the White Walkers, like once they die, they're part of the team.
Yeah, totally.
Once they die off the restaurants, they become cider experts.
Well,
That's
once they
your
go
analogy.
to the class, they become the.
Oh, I see.
Once he teaches the gospel, preaches the gospel, then they are now on the team.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
There's the Night King, and you are the Cider King.
Yeah,
So
I like it.
So they must have known something about the Cider King in.
No. I feel like 5 years ago was the birth of the Cider King.
Okay, fair enough.
It was January 2017 on the NCF&B podcast, really.
But right. That's a good point.
All right, so now...
Right. So I met these guys in Denver 5 years ago. We became fast friends. We would see each other at cider events. We would spend a lot of time eating and drinking because we all agree on how to eat and drink, which is copious amounts and often.
Right.
And so we became fast friends. And so probably 3 years ago, I said to them, I'm ready to stop doing restaurants. When you're ready to come to the East Coast, let's have a conversation. So about a year ago, they opened, and about a year ago, they opened a production facility in Lafayette, a 35,000 square foot production facility. So they have the ability to make a ton of cider now. And when that happened, we started having the conversation of how we got to North Carolina. And here we are.
Right.
About a year later, we're distributing in North Carolina and opening ventures and they're helping me now share the gospel of cider.
What a way into North Carolina and the East Coast for you guys to find Mattie. That's pretty awesome. First of all, because as Eric was talking about before, Mattie B knows everybody and everybody knows Mattie B. He's the ultimate connector, especially in the cider world. And then we'll talk about this, but the soon to be open or will be open.
It's open.
Yeah, it's open. The northern.
We opened.
We had the friends and family last night.
Right on.
Saturday is officially the grand opening.
Yeah, you guys have opened the Northern Spy, which is a cider-based bar out there in Durham in the old Mattie B's space.
Old Black
Twig space. Yeah. So let's get into STEM for a second. Talk about you guys have a very strong philosophy on why you created cider. How did you guys get into cider, and what is your basis for flavor and quality?
Well, Eric and I both are from Michigan. We kind of bonded over Michigan football. And so we went back to Michigan to watch a football game. We went up north, as they say, in Michigan, and went up to a little place called Tandem Ciders. Got really drunk in their tap room. And we were like, this is delicious. We should make cider in Colorado. And then, long story short, we executed.
Nice.
That is a long story short.
Yeah.
It is very. It's also important. We kind of grew up in cider. Cider's a big thing in Michigan, and there's kind of two things about cider. There's the delicious alcohol that we all know as cider, but there's also in the Midwest and the Northeast, there's the cider and donut experience that you grow up with as a kid, and that was a big part of our lives growing up. Weekends at the cider mills, drinking cider and chasing donuts around. So
You pick
Can I
apples.
just take this time to plug Bestow Baked Goods, who so apropos bought donuts
Yeah, they
today
brought
to us?
sweet potato donuts, which is crazy. Bestow Baked Goods, new to the podcast. Kyle and Heather Sutton are amazing people and surprise us with new knowledge of anything going on in this food and beverage
Yes.
industry every time we see them. But today they provided these sweet potato donuts. They are covered in cinnamon and brown sugar. And Mattie B, you haven't had one yet.
I haven't.
that's a mistake.
Uh-oh.
You
Is
need
it?
to fix that.
Okay.
Grab a
Yeah.
piece.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
okay.
gonna
I'm in.
it's gonna give you what you need this morning.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So
I can't
please
wait.
continue now, as we've had the apropos donuts, to the cider and donuts and the history you were talking about of
Yeah.
your
So
cider.
Oh boy,
it's-
that is good. I have to interrupt for just a second.
Right.
It's going to change my day.
Yeah.
Well, and
Changing
Joey,
my
who's
day.
also a member of the kitchen with MRC, I just handed him some of these donuts, and he said, in Michigan, it's all about cider and donuts, and this took me right back to Michigan immediately. So that is funny that just was said 20 minutes before we got on the podcast. But so cider and donuts is a big deal in Michigan.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's
What is going on with that?
Part of our culture.
Yeah, how did that come to be?
Well, there's a lot of apples grown in Michigan, and
right.
I mean a lot of apples, and I mean there's a ton of cider mills there. I mean not every, but close to every little town has a really cool cider mill, and it's a great place for families to hang out and spend a few hours on a weekend. And I mean it's in our bones. So this trip back to Michigan kind of rekindled that a little bit, and
What were you guys? Two things. What were you guys doing in Michigan? Was it just like a visit?
drinking.
Just go home and drink.
Football
and have cider
and
donuts?
drinking,
Oh, football.
yeah.
That's right. And then what were you doing in Colorado at that time? And why Colorado?
Yeah, why Colorado? Because Colorado's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up in the frequenting the outdoors, and Colorado was kind of the dream, and so I moved out there. I went to school out there.
Okay.
It's a great place to live, and called it home for quite a while. At this point, over 20 years now.
And what kind of business were you guys in Colorado?
Completely different. So I was running marketing and business development for a large mechanical electrical contractor. Nothing sexy like making cider,
Gotcha.
that's for sure.
And Philip?
I was going to school for postgraduate education.
Okay.
Yep.
You're unemployed, is what you're saying.
Yeah, unemployable.
Right. So the cider game was a lot more attractive.
It was. And Phil and I, we met through our wives. They worked together at the time, and in fact still do. It's funny, our wives are partners, and then we're partners in businesses. So
And you guys have
kinda
kids
weird.
that are about the same age. So you
We
guys
did,
are like
yeah.
It's
mirrored.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, so let's get into cider then. Do you guys think the same way about cider? What differentiates your cider, and what was the first cider you guys made?
Well, I think our kind of cider philosophy is, clean, easy to drink, bright, light, things that it's a little bit different from what is more commercially available. I think our stuff is a little more dry than a lot of what's out there on the shelves.
Meaning there's a lot of
and
sweet cider out there.
there is.
Yeah.
Which is not to say that we don't make a sweeter cider. But we're drinking real dry right now. And
This is real dry.
yeah, it sure is.
Yeah.
Real dry.
Yeah.
Mattie, what's the typical Is there a typical residual sugar on like your baseline commercial cider?
Oh man, that's probably actually Phil probably knows the answer to that question more so than I do. I know specs more on Stem than I do on the Angry Orchards of the world. But my guess would be
a Coca-Cola can I think has 25 grams of sugar.
Okay.
12 ounce.
Okay.
I think Angry Orchard has like 21.
Okay.
And we have 0.
Zero.
Yep.
Wow.
That's interesting.
I mean, I'm tasting it right now. I love it. It's like a
Clean
wine.
and dry.
Yeah.
This particular one has
Yes.
0. Not
Yeah.
all your ciders, but yeah, this particular
This one has 0.
Right. And that's because you fermented out all the sugar. The yeast fermented all the sugar out in the fermentation process, whatever. You took it dry, like the way we would do like champagne or something like that.
And it brings out more acidity.
And, yep. And now we're ready to start drinking other ciders.
Yeah, which are we drinking now?
Let's have raspberry.
Okay.
Let's have raspberry. Seems
So
like
what does
a
that
good
mean?
idea.
Are you fermenting raspberries as well into the mash?
This is co-fermented with raspberries
Okay.
toward the end of fermentation, and it really brings out, it retains the nice aromatics from the raspberries, and but it's still bone dry.
Like, so residual sugar in this?
0.
Zero. Like that. It's
0.
like, in the wine world, we call that brut nature.
Yeah.
Zero. So, again, also cider reaches out to those healthy people who don't want sugar in their diets.
Yeah,
It's a way to
totally.
get drunk healthily.
No gluten.
No, or gluten, because beer would have gluten if it's like a wheat beer. Well, I think all beer has gluten unless it's a gluten-free beer.
reduced
Correct.
or gluten-free.
But cider is always a gluten-free drink unless it's like tampered with.
Yeah, exactly. There are a couple of exceptions. but
We
for the
only
most
use
part-
gluten-free apples.
Right. I do love when like the water bottle says this is gluten-free. I'm like, thanks, assholes.
Yeah.
Sell it. Well, that's like that. They started putting that on vodka, but all vodka is gluten free.
Yeah, once you distill it down
Right.
from its
Yeah.
natural form into a vapor, the gluten ceases to exist.
Right.
Yeah.
So you did mention apples. What type of apples and how many different species of apples do you use in your ciders?
So we get apples from around the country, I guess. We get a lot. When we first opened, we were using a lot. We were heavily out of Colorado, Western Slope. There's a lot of apple growth in that region, and it's an interesting kind of microclimate over there. It gets really hot during the day and really cold at night, and during the summer and it's not a very long growing season, but it makes pretty good fruit, and but it's pretty volatile, just based on freezes, and because we get late freezes and early frosts. And
how does it work with cider? Do you guys work with growers regularly? Do you own orchards as well, there are some cideries that own orchards, but that's pretty rare, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of estate kind of cider out there, but for the most part, there's just you don't know really what's going to happen in the apple crop, so you just buy what's available,
Right.
If they've got apples to sell, you buy them.
There you go.
So,
And then you make your flavor profiles based off of what you reap.
yeah. So we do our blending pretty much at the press, and then
you do your blending at the press.
they blend the apples for us at the press. Yeah, we don't press. We contract press, or we get apples pressed for us.
Okay. Based on your recommendation for what you want the blend to be, or
Yeah, it's a combination of availability and what our flavor profile kind of wants to be.
right.
Consistency comes into play too. I mean, with fruit, you really have two choices. You can pick the varietal, and understand that over the course of the year that consistency is going to fluctuate quite a bit as the sugars develop and the moisture leaves the fruit. Or you can vary the variety of apple throughout the year to keep a consistent metric on your juice blend. Mm-hmm. And that's the option that we take for most of our canned ciders.
Okay.
But that being said, on some specialty stuff that we do, our larger format bottles and things, we embrace that lack of consistency. And so we harvest that fruit in the fall. Obviously, that's when apples are harvested. And then depending on when we make the cider, the fruit changes.
So what do you do with, because all of it's like wine, all of the fruit comes in one harvest, unless I guess you're getting like from South America or Southern Hemisphere or something like that, which would be interesting. But
that's not what we're doing.
That is definitely not what we're doing.
Okay. There was like a look like, oh, maybe there's an upcoming project that we don't know about. Somehow I had intel. No. So what do you do with the fruit from time to, because I assume you're making cider all year round, right?
We do, yeah. The fruit, like you said, the fruit's all harvested in the fall.
Yeah.
And then depending on which fruit it is, if it's the blend that we use for our core ciders, most of those apples actually go into a large cold storage warehouse.
You have like a reserve.
Exactly.
You have a reserve, and then you make from it like on a regular basis throughout the year, different flavors or whatever it might be.
And we pull that fruit out of the warehouse, again, based on the juice characteristics that we're looking for. So
you pull the fruit and then you take it to press.
Correct.
Got it.
And keep in mind, this all happens outside of Stem. We don't do that in-house. This is all contracted out.
Is that something that you would eventually like to do, or you?
No. This is that's a lot of infrastructure. To bring in, and it really it exists today, so we take advantage of it.
Yeah,
it works pretty well.
So in Denver, in Colorado, your facilities are a cidery and a brick and mortar to walk in and drink and eat as well?
Absolutely. So we have two facilities in Colorado. Our original location, which is in the Rhino neighborhood in downtown Denver, it's a really cool food and beverage destination in the city. It wasn't when we started, but it definitely is now. And then we moved out of that facility and opened up Acreage, and our production facility. Acreage is a cider-focused restaurant. We sit on top of a hill about 100 feet up above anything else, and you have this unobstructed view of the mountains. It's absolutely a beautiful place to make cider, and that's where almost all of our cider is made at this point. We do still make some real small batch stuff that's available only in our Rhino tap room, but for the most part, everything comes out of that facility in Lafayette.
So the Denverites, the Denverinians,
sure.
I like Denverinians for
Denverinians, which is actually where my family hails from. I'm not from Denver, but my entire family before me is all from Denver. So kudos to them. The Avalanche will get beat by the San Jose Sharks. I just want to let you know that.
Nobody cares about the West.
And then the
Coast
Hurricanes
Conference.
will beat the Sharks in the finals.
There you go. That's more important.
Go Canes.
Go Canes.
So you have these establishments doing well. The Denverinians all received you well, and you are doing this well-oiled machine, and thought, all right, well, let's do it. Let's go and do this in North Carolina, because obviously it's the NCF&B. We got to connect it back to Carolina. So now you have this proved model that you're doing in Denver, and you've built it out. As Mattie said, you have this facility in Lafayette large enough to scale to now house, to bring in cider out here. So you partner in with Mattie, and he comes in. You open up the Northern Spy. Is the Northern Spy like a very similar concept as to what you're doing in Denver? And if it's not, how? How is it different?
Not at all. It's completely different. So obviously we're a cidery. We have a strong connection with cider, but the Northern Spy it's really just a bar, restaurant, and bottle shop. So it's a really cool spot. We've got a great selection of cider. We have an incredible selection of beer, both locally and from around the country.
Just add a good selection of wine, too.
And a great selection of wine.
Matt's day job got involved?
Thanks, Mattie.
Yeah, so, no problem.
It's a cool spot to come and hang out, and like I said, we've got a great selection. You can we've got 6 ciders on tap. We have 6 beers on tap. We have 4 pre-batched cocktails and 2 wines. But then we've got hundreds of SKUs that are all available for off-premise or on-premise consumption. And so you can, if you're not happy with the tap list, which would surprise me, you're welcome to walk through the store, pick something out of your liking, bring it up to the bar, and we'll open it up for you. We can pair that with some great food, prepared for you by our executive chef and culinary director, Eric Lee, who happens to be in town this week with us, getting things going.
And Eric came from Denver as well.
He did, yeah.
So, okay, cool. So he designed the menu that you have here. So is the menu similar to the menu that you have in Denver?
It's not. There's a few similarities. But no, it was really designed and focused around the Northern Spy. And specifically, I mean, we have this whole selection of beer that we don't have at Acreage out in Colorado. So that influences the menu pretty greatly.
And so you have a lot of ciders that you make, of course, but then are you selling other people's ciders as well?
We do, yeah. I think we're really close to having every cider that's available here in North Carolina, or at least in the Triangle, and we're working on kind of completing that list over the next few days. So, nice. Yeah, I mean, if you like cider, come down, check it out. But I got to say, we have an equally amazing selection of beer and wines to check out as well.
Yeah, I will say one thing that I'm wondering, Mattie, maybe you can help answer this, is if you guys are available at the Triangle Wine Company, which is a fantastic other place, not in Durham, but has 4 other locations in Morrisville, Cary, Holly Springs, and Southern Pines for you to buy cider, wine, beer, vermouth, and all other types of things.
I think they even sell bitters and peanuts.
Bitters and peanuts, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and they have a tap room also. They're not in Durham, so maybe you guys can work out a deal together. And if you use the NCFB promo code, you will receive a healthy discount. So go online to trianglewineco.com and get some cider and beers if you're not in Durham.
Bing.
Yeah, there you go. Sadly, we're not at Triangle Wine Company. The only reason that we're not is because we're not in Raleigh yet. We're only in Durham and Chapel Hill currently. We're finalizing some distribution stuff, but we should be in Raleigh within the next probably month.
Who are you guys distributed by?
We are with the AB network, so Harris, Behringer now, with the transfer of Jeffries and the sale of R.A. Jeffries, and so.
Okay, cool.
That's the deal.
But people could obviously go to stemciders.com and is that your website?
It is.
It sure is.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Go to stemciders.com to make contact. No, that's great. Okay, so now let's get back into cider because I have an empty glass and Mattie, you haven't poured me the next one.
Oh my gosh, let's do this.
What are we doing?
What am I doing? What is wrong with
While you were pouring that, I do notice we had the raspberry, we had the Brut, ultra dry. Now you have at least 3 more to go here, and I mean, I didn't realize cider could come in so many shapes and sizes and flavors other than just the stylistic differences from, say, the countries they're made. That's a harken back to our original episode, Mattie, when you were talking about domestic ciders versus, like, say, Spanish and French ciders, where, like, the French, really dry, Spanish, really funky, like...
Spanish really, really funky. French actually a little bit sweeter.
Oh, maybe on the sweet, okay.
Yeah, effervescent and a little bit sweeter, the French. And then the British are kind of like in that sort of in-between where they're a little cleaner. They still have some funk on them, and they have a little less sweet than the French, but probably a little bit more than the Spanish.
Yeah. I remember, Max, just to sidebar for a second, when we had Mattie in studio, not in studio, makeshift studio, and you and I, after, you remember, we got really excited. We were like, let's go get some ciders. And we went to Bottle Rev by your house.
Bottle Rev and bought a bunch of ciders and just drank all afternoon.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
But I remember you had suggested Isategi, which is super funky,
super
on
funky.
the super left wing of extreme of funky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that stuff is that stuff is a different ball game altogether.
It's like I would compare it to listeners when you're driving around. You've all had cider. You've also had Scotch. If you're thinking of Scotch, this is like the Lafroig of Scotch.
Good analogy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like
it's
really peaty and
way out there.
Yeah, it's definitely really funky stuff.
Whoa, this is. I just took a sip of what we had right now. Tell us what we're drinking.
So this is a salted cucumber. This is a collaboration with the Real Deal, Real Dill, excuse me, which is a pickle company in Denver that also makes amazing Bloody Mary mix. And so this is our dry hop cider that we add fresh cucumber and sea salt to.
The kids would call this dope.
Yeah.
Can we just get can we get Serge from St. Jacques to drop?
This is
so good. We just need that drop so you can bang that in
This
every time.
really is amazing. This is a flavor I've never tasted before.
Yeah.
I've tasted all these flavors individually, but you've pulled them all together. I will say, and I tell everybody, my favorite herb, not that herb, my favorite herb to smell, I want to be around all day long is dill. It's my favorite scent. I want dill all over the place.
What's the
It makes
dill?
me feel good. And this is tremendous. I mean, give me some lox and some dill and some cream cheese. I'm a happy man. But this,
Yeah, this is a seasonal that we do for the 6 months starting in March, going till about October, and it's awesome. It's really clean, very dry, much like the first two, but it gives this sort of like herbal and cucumbery note it's amazing by itself. But I love to do cocktails
I
with
was
this.
just going to say, I bet you
Yeah,
could do some
it's
fantastic cocktails. There's a lot of
awesome.
room to play with inside of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can get crazy with it and do all kinds of really fancy cocktails. But for the listener at home, it's the kind of thing where you could literally put it on ice and throw some gin in, or even some mezcal, and get that little smokiness out of it, and with the cucumber and everything else.
I mean, you
it's
can make a
got-
pickleback martini and pickleback shot and
Yeah.
drop it in there, and you are. For those that don't know the pickleback, you got into the pickleback, but you just
Right.
got to get a little pickle juice. I like gin in my pickleback, but you could do vodka as well.
Yeah.
And just shake it up. Maybe the best way I've ever done it is also put a white vermouth in there, just a little touch, a little Dolin Blanc, if you will.
Yeah.
And shake it up, pour it nice and neat into a shot. And that's either your Boilermaker right there inside of cider, or just drink it, sip it by itself. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
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 But that cider, so that is what I first heard about you. I think Steve Mangano actually told me about that. Like, he was like,
Yeah, I
"Oh,
believe
I'm
it.
not much
He-
into cider, but
he loves-
that cucumber thing I
He
crush
loves
all day
this-
long."
Yeah, he loves the salted cucumber.
Yeah.
Yeah, he drinks it. He drinks a ton of that stuff for sure.
And these are all in cans. So you guys, this is all being made and produced and not imported, but sent out from Denver, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So I like this connection. We need to have more Denver to Raleigh connections because I feel like we're kindred spirits as cities. There's a lot of like.
Your old employee or your old partner in Standard Foods, Greshler, John Greshler.
Yeah.
John Greshler moved back out there.
That's right. And for that reason, now we should tie it all together. Thanks, Greshy.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I feel like these are cities that are really conscious of food, really conscious of quality of life. As you were saying earlier, just like you like getting outdoors and doing things. That's definitely the North Carolina way of things.
Yeah.
And getting out there, being kind of living healthy, but also living a little decadent, self-indulgent with great food, wine, cider. You guys still, of course, now have other legal things in your state that make us wildly different as to your offerings. But all those things are kind of connecting. Pretty good hockey team that's going to lose pretty soon. 2-hour good hockey team. But I do like the Denver Raleigh connection. I think that kind of fits in nicely. Is that asking you as Stem Ciders, like, why did you pick North Carolina and even more specifically Durham as your place?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's a combination of things. I mean, we're currently distributed in 8 states around the country and looking to expand. So I think the main reason we looked at Durham specifically is because we got, this weird phone call from Mattie B. And he's like, hey, what do you think about this?
Get me out of this business. Please get me out of this business. Help me.
hope
Then
that
we were
wasn't-
like, oh, yeah, we should get into that business.
Yeah.
Fools you are.
Yeah, I was going to say also at the same time, if I heard anybody call me with that desperation in their voice, I'd be like, "Oh, we got him."
Cents on
That's
the dollar.
minimum wage sound. So.
Oh, they got me. They got me. Whether they like it or not, they got me.
Yeah.
So how do you fit into this whole thing, Mattie? Like, what is now your utilization with STEM inside of the business?
My business card says Right Coast Sales.
Okay.
And Choach Catcher. So I still catch cider,
Oh, nice.
and I run the sales on this side of the country.
Nice.
And will you have a whole team, or do you already have a team?
No, just me for right now. Right co-sales or me saying right co-sales is probably a little generous, as we're only in North Carolina currently, or really I guess we're only in Durham. Chapel Hill. so I'm not quite to the need of team. But I think we have lofty goals, and hopefully we get to the place where there is a team needed.
So I want to get back to the cider for a second and talk about how you get the flavor. But for a second, we also talking about building a team, starting a restaurant, or for any entrepreneur starting a business. You know who helps us is the Forrest Firm.
Everybody has legal questions, especially in the food and beverage industry. So that's why we've provided Jen and the Forrest Firm to help us out. And if you follow us on Instagram at NCFB Pod, we'll put out a post weekly from Forrest Firm and ask a question. It might be the question that we ask Jen on the show. Hey, we have Jen Hoverstadt on the phone, our favorite attorney here from Forrest Firm, speaking about all things legalese.
Legalese. I feel so much more comfortable every time she's just on the phone with us.
Yeah.
I automatically feel safe.
Yeah, it's like having our personal Perry Mason.
Yes, Perry Mason was criminal law, but, we're all in the same realm together.
So, Jen, let's get into it. Talking about starting a restaurant, there are so many concepts that formulate around the creative genius in the kitchen and the creative genius in the front of the house. And many times it's like it's a great chef and that great chef's good friend who's also a general manager / wine director, kind of like the Matt or Max type person. So let's say you opened up a restaurant and you got your chef and you've got yourself doing the front of the house. What would be advice that Forrest Firm would offer to both of these partners who are seemingly good friends at this very moment to put on paper to make that partnership as fruitful as possible for years going forward?
A partnership is really going to be just like a marriage. So you want to come into it recognizing that each of you have kind of your own ideas about things, and those ideas should be valued. You need to know who's going to be making the decisions, how are those decisions going to kind of play out and win out, because when we think about a partnership and we think 50-50, ultimately someone needs to be able to make the decision. So who's going to be able to have that final say? And then how are profits and losses going to be shared? Again, that's something where we think it's going to be 50-50, but there could be where one of the partners is bringing in the heavier financial burden. So therefore that person will likely get the heavier financial reward on the back end. We also think about things like what happens if one of the partners dies? And of course, we don't want to think about that, but is there insurance in place for the people who are going to be the business owners to make sure that any kind of loss, whether it's through death or other incapacity, is going to be covered by insurance should something happen to that person? So there are a lot of things to think about with a partnership that we tend to kind of push to the side when we're so excited to get started with a business.
Are there anything like legally talking about like the Yoko Ono clause, like bringing in one of the partners is now married, and so then the wife comes in and can make changes and break up the Beatles, the band?
So that's one of the things that we will make sure we define in the partnership agreement, whether or not spouses have any right to the business ownership. And it's something you want to define on the front end. I know a lot of this can be uncomfortable conversations, but if you have these conversations on the front end, there won't be any surprises on the back end should and when something happens.
Well, Jen, thank you very much. And if you have any more questions, contact Forrest Firm. And here are the details. To learn more about the Forrest Firm and what they can do for you, click the link in our show notes or visit forrestfirm.com/NCFB to request a free consultation for your business. You can also reach them at 877-669-1455. Forrest Firm, business attorneys across North Carolina.
And we're back. So I was sitting here wondering, how does that cucumber salted flavor happen?
The real deal in Denver, they basically juice, like they puree a bunch of cucumbers for us. after our cider is finished or fermented, we put all this cool stuff in. We put it's this like neon green cucumber puree that we just pump into the tank. The whole facility smells like cucumbers.
It must be awesome.
Yeah, it's
unless you don't like cucumbers,
right? Right.
Yeah.
If you're allergic to cucumbers, then
take the day off.
That's a really bad day. Really bad.
And a really weird allergy, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know if that actually exists, but I'm going to say it does. And then we pump it in, and so it's hopped as well. So we add hops, basically like a dry hopping process, and some sea salt.
So does that lower the alcohol of that cider that gets canned because part of it is sharing with non-alcoholic cucumber puree?
Slightly. I mean, you don't need a lot of cucumber to get a lot of cucumber flavor.
Gotcha.
Especially when it's pureed like that.
Nice. All right.
And so what are we drinking here now? We have...
So this is off dry. So this is where the first three things we had are all part of the cucumber is seasonal, but it's also a dry base. So we're aiming to have as dry as possible, really, with the first three ciders. This is the off dry. So this is where we get a little bit of sugar going on.
Sure, but this just tastes to me kind of like what I would typically think a cider tastes like, given like the big houses out there that I've had.
This is for me. This is the quintessential cider. Like this is for everyday cider. This is what everybody wants. This is truly alcoholic apple juice. I mean, it is. Yeah. It tastes like fresh apple. It gives you all of the things that you want. It's what everybody wants. When they're thinking like, I don't want to think about this. I just want cider. And it's the kind of thing where it's delicious enough that if you want to think about it, you absolutely can, and as we are right now. But if you get home at the end of the long day and you just want to drink, it will go down very quickly. Totally. And you don't have to think about it.
There's only 10 grams of sugar in a can.
Okay.
So it's still
so less than half of what would be in Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
And it all comes from the apple.
Right.
All so we didn't add the sugar. We just arrested fermentation.
Yeah. Gotcha. And again, so it's all the same apples that you would use for the other three ciders that we've tasted previously.
Yeah. Off dry is it's basically real dry that we stop fermentation on early and leave some residual sugar in.
So now we're getting to hibiscus session, and this is kind of a rosé color. So how does the color occur?
This is our play on a Jamaica Aguas Fresca.
Jamaica Aguas Fresca.
So it's you go to the taqueria and they have those
those colas
like
and drinks
they have
and fruit
horchata,
juices.
which is like
cinnamon
rice milk.
Cinnamon rice milk. Yeah.
And then Jamaica, which is basically a hibiscus tea, a really dark red hibiscus tea. This is we make a really crazily concentrated hibiscus tea, and then we blend it with cider. So hibiscus tea really has a lot of acidity to it. Has a lot of kind of malic acid in it, and so it brings a lot of brightness. It's got a little bit of tannin to it. Hibiscus is fairly fragrant, so you get that nice aromatics from it as well. It is lower in alcohol because of the tea that we make. So I really like this just as like a little porch drinker.
Yeah, there's a little savory component. That's that tea coming through, I imagine. So it's not like, but there is some sweetness too, right? There is some sugar, residual sugar in there. So yeah, this is just kind of like what we just tried with a little bit more of the hibiscus adjustment or additive to it.
Yeah.
So in terms of, this color is coming from the tea, but as you're seeing rosé cider and even red cider starting to become more popular, how are most people going about this? For example, I know with Wolfer, which is out on Long Island, and they're a winery first, I believe they're adding their grape must back in order to color it. Are you seeing a trend, or is there a
It's the
standard?
gamut. It's
the gamut.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's anything from there are actually red fleshed apples. So you could make a rosé cider literally with just red fleshed apples. No must.
Yeah.
The actual must is red.
If you cut the apple, instead of white, it's red.
Oh wow.
Pink.
Oh yeah.
Is there anybody making a significant commercially available cider like that?
No.
Rosé cider? No.
Yeah.
Significant?
I mean, no. I mean, there are.
Like, could you buy that at Northern Spy?
Yes.
Yes.
What can I ask? What other brand that is?
Eden.
Eden
is making a wonderful rosé. It's a fantastic cidery.
West County makes a red flesh fruit cider called Redfield. We do not have that, but I'm hoping to get some soon because it's delicious.
So with the Northern Spy opening, just because we got a couple minutes before we're out of here, I'd like to just get a little bit of centralized focus on what people can do while they're there. If there's anything fun happening at Northern Spy with the opening and all, like what can we expect from you guys now over the summer?
I think with Northern Spy, we don't have any specific events planned, but honestly, what we have there is unlike anything I've seen, specifically in the Triangle or North Carolina, and really unlike anything I've seen in the country, because it's a bottle shop, and it's legitimately a bottle shop. It has an unbelievable selection of beer, wine. We have all of Craig's crude bitters. We have all kinds of retail opportunities as well as on-premise opportunities in a number of different formats, including batch cocktails. So this is like a bottle shop on steroids.
Yeah.
Add the fact that you have Eric Lee making amazing food that I got to taste for the first time yesterday. And I got to tell you, man, the food is dynamite. There's a fried bologna sandwich on that menu that will make you cry. It is absolutely fantastic. And for a guy coming from Denver, he handed me a biscuit yesterday, and I was ready to tell him that he didn't know what he was doing with biscuits. I was like, I'm from the South, brother. I know what a biscuit tastes like, and I was speechless. I couldn't even say anything to him.
This is delicious.
I was like, this is just fantastic. It's so, so good. And we're really lucky. We're using Andrew Ulam's bread.
Oh yeah.
Which is killer. So we have an unbelievable brioche roll. Yeah,
he'll be opening soon.
Yeah, opening very soon. But we were lucky enough to sort of get him going, and
the name Northern Spy, isn't that a varietal of apple?
It is. It's a apple that was varietal, if you would, that grows primarily in Michigan and in New York State.
So it kind of makes sense. You guys are a couple carpetbaggers spying in on North Carolina.
Absolutely.
I get it.
Poke the bear a little bit.
Yeah. You're self-aware. I like that.
But you did you partnered with a native son to get you in there.
Absolutely.
He is the spy.
My specialty is espionage.
Agent.
Yeah. He says he's from the South, but he's really a northern spy.
Well, my mother is from Westchester County, so
there you go.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Matt, what else you got?
Nothing. It sounds like Northern Spy is a pretty awesome place to go.
Yeah.
And grab yourself a Stem Cider. Go to Northern Spy. You'll eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.